Hey, my name is Mason Carter, and for my beer final, I will be pairing beers with the menu items from the Tin Roof, which is located in West Ashley, Charleston. It is a live music venue which features lots of taps and a full bar. So, beginning with appetizers, the first menu item are fried pickles with a gochujang ranch. So, these are pickles that have been breaded and fried, and they are served with a ranch that has gochujang spices added in. And for my first pairing, I would go with the Folly's Pride Blonde Ale from Freehouse Brewing. It's a crisp golden session ale with a mildly bitter citrus finish. It has a light hoppiness, so the beer will be able to cut through the fatty breaded coating of the fried pickles, while the citrus notes will pair nicely with the acidity of the vinegar and the tangy ranch. The next beer I would choose is the Claret Rosé from Revelry Brewing. It's an earthy and funky sour, and it's reminiscent of a fruity red wine. The flavors of black currants and blackberry will help cut through the oil fried exterior while bringing some refreshing brightness. The next appetizer is the sloppy nachos, which are corn tortilla chips with queso and Monterey Jack cheese, barbecue sauce, sour cream, tomatoes, black beans, jalapenos, scallions, and cilantro. So for my first pairing, I would go with the Surly Hell Lager from Surly Brewing. The malt sweetness of this lager will help to cut the heat from the jalapenos and barbecue sauce, and the subtle bitterness will help balance out the rich sour cream. The low hop presence means there will not be an overwhelming bitterness, which would overpower the freshness provided by the tomatoes and the cilantro. I would also go with Dark Cloud from Mother Earth Brewing. This Belgian style beer has sweet notes of cola and fig, which will pair well with the tangy nature of the barbecue sauce topping the nachos. And the bubbly briskness of this lager will stand up to the richness of the cheese and sour cream, creating a well rounded tasting experience. So now we're on to the entrees, and the first is the Nashville Hot Chicken Sandwich, which is a buttermilk fried chicken sandwich, and it's been rubbed with cayenne, which gives it a nice heat, and it's served on Texas toast with ranch potato salad and pickles. So the first beer I would pair with it is the Rompo Red Ale from Jackalope Brewing Company. This red rye ale has a sweetness from the addition of rye malt, which will stand up to the heat of the cayenne rubbed chicken, while the minimal hot presence will allow for the savory spice of the chicken to shine through without creating an overwhelming amount of spice. The next beer I would go with is the Chicken Scratch American Pilsner from Little Harpeth Brewing. This Pilsner is extremely refreshing with a hint of sweetness from the corn, which will help to cut the heat of the spice of the chicken sandwich, and the use of cluster and Saz hops provides refreshingly floral and herbal notes, which will help to cleanse the palate while not overpowering the flavor of the chicken, but it'll instead refresh the palate for the next onslaught of heat from the cayenne. The next entree is the pulled pork Sammy sandwich, which is a hickory smoked pork butt topped with barbecue sauce and slaw on a Hawaiian roll. So the first beer I would go with is the Stone Smoked Porter from Stone Brewing, and it's crafted with peat smoked malt, and it gives the porter an appealing smokiness, which will complement the smoky barbecue flavors of the pulled pork. And the flavors of chocolate and coffee provide to the robustness of the beer, which will allow it to complement the tang of the barbecue sauce and pineapple, while the sweetness of the malt will complement the light sweetness of the Hawaiian roll. The next beer I would go with is First Shot Pale Ale from Fatty's Beer Works. This bright and citrusy pale ale would be a great pairing with the complex flavors of pulled pork. The strong hoppy notes will complement the spices of the barbecue sauce and the pork, while the malt will highlight the savoriness of the meat. The citrus notes will clean the citrus notes and clean finish will cleanse the palate after this heavy entree. The next entree is a carnitas taco, which features smoked pork shoulder, pineapple, diced onion, cilantro, and jalapeno. And the first beer I would pair with this is Wirenut Brown from Tradesman Brewing. So this brown ale from Tradesman Brewing features notes of caramel malt and toasted nuts, and these flavors will complement the sweet and savory combination of the pork shoulder and the pineapple in the taco. And the malt sweetness will pleasantly contrast with the heat of the jalapeno, and the lack of hops will make this an easy drinking beer to refresh the palate from the intense flavors and heat of the dish. Next, for a more classic pairing, I would go with a Modelo Especial, which is typically paired with Mexican fare. This Pilsner style lager has a delicate hop profile, which will cut through the richness of the smoked pork shoulder. The hop profile provides notes of honey and corn, which will provide a light sweetness to contrast with the jalapeno, while the crisp finish will not overwhelm the strong flavors of onion and pineapple. So the next entree is the Chicken Tinga Taco, which features smoked chipotle chicken, an avocado crema, queso blanco, radish, and cilantro. So for the first beer I would pair with it, I would go with the Tropical Torpedo from Sierra Nevada Brewery. This tropical take on an IPA has an intense hop aroma through the use of a dry hopping method, which allows for increased hop flavors without the added bitterness that you typically find in an IPA. And the notes of mango, papaya, and passion fruit will add needed brightness to the fatty crema and queso, while the bitterness of the IPA will also cut through the fat. Next, I would go with the Lefty Lucy IPA from Revelry Brewing. So this is a West Coast style IPA, and it's dry and bitter due to the addition of hops at the beginning of the brewing process, which entails a pronounced bitterness that will cut through the fat of the crema and the rich queso. However, the abundance of hops will also provide a refreshing bitterness to the beer, which will complement the freshness of the cilantro and pair with the bitter pepperiness of the fresh radish. The next entree is the Garden Quesadilla, which is a vegetarian option on the menu. It features mushroom, corn, caramelized onion, roasted tomatoes, banana peppers, and Monterey Jack cheese. So for the first beer I would go with, it would be the Eastside Saison from Holy City Brewing. This Saison style beer is nice and bright and will pair well with the vegetal flavors of the quesadilla. The addition of lemongrass will brighten up the savory flavors of roasted tomatoes, while the hoppiness will help to balance out the sweetness of the caramelized onion. Since this quesadilla has minimal spice, you're safe to use a really hoppy beer, so the addition of black hops will work to cut the richness of the cheese while not uplifting any heat present in the dish. The next beer I would go with is the Chipotle Porter from Tradesman Brewing, which is a roasty malt beer with really malty flavors, and it'll complement the sweetness of the caramelized onion, while the addition of roasted chipotle into the brewing process creates a light spice that will meld with the vegetal flavors of the corn, tomato, and banana peppers. The pronounced hops will cut through the richness of the cheese while complementing the really rich umami flavors of the mushroom. The next entree is the Tin Roof Classic Burger, which features cheddar cheese, lettuce, tomato, red onion, pickles, and yellow mustard. So it's really just your classic American burger with a thick beef patty. And to not overpower it, I would first go with Something Cold from Edmund's Oast. So it's a refreshing blonde ale that's really easy to drink with a light hoppiness. The little hop presence will help to cut through the fat and richness of the burger, while they're subtle enough to not overpower the flavor of the meat. And the subtle malty aromas and sweetness will contrast with the acidity of the mustard, and the fast and clean finish will leave you really ready for the next bite of the burger. I would also go with the Little Nug Hoppy Pale Ale from Freehouse Brewery. This is also a dry hop pale ale, which features minimal bitterness due to the dry hopping process, which will provide a slight bitterness to help wash down the fat of the burger while still allowing the meat to be the star of the show. With a clean, crisp, and juicy profile, this hazy pale ale will pair nicely with the bold flavors of the burger while also cleansing the palate. So the final entree, and my personal favorite on the menu, is the Southern Burger. This is like a fully loaded burger with pimento cheese, fried green tomatoes, bacon, and chow chow. So the first beer I would pair it with is the ESB from High Cotton Brewing. This is an English pale ale which has a light body and mouthfeel, and it will cut through the richness of the sandwich's melted pimento cheese. And small amounts of crystal and caramel malts will lend some sweetness and color, and the slight fruity esters from the English yeast strain really accentuate the fermented vinegar flavor of the chow chow. Challenger hops provide balance to the fatty nature of the burger and cheese, while the hops also elevate the spiciness of the pimentos. Next, I would go with this Celebration Fresh Hop IPA from Sierra Nevada Brewery. So this fully loaded burger can stand up to a really high flavor-packed beer, which is why this fresh hopped IPA would be a great pairing. The bitter IPA will cut through the rich toppings and savory meat, while the notes of citrus and pine from those fresh hops will create a complex contrast between the savory flavors of the bacon and the beef.